Hey everyone, I'm Sarah with Fisher Price Ranch. First off, please hit that subscription button down below and the notification bell for updates on our next videos. So today I thought I would talk to you a little bit about picking out a new goat that's specific for you and also the pricing. So when you're first getting into goats, a lot of people don't understand why goats are priced the way that they are. There's so much that goes into raising goats, and especially how they're managed. Also what they're used for. So if you're looking just for a pet goat, most people stick to like Nigerian dwarves, and you don't want to get the show quality, you want to get the pet quality, and those are ones that aren't really the best for show. And so those, they run a little bit cheaper. If you're wanting to get into show goats, there's all different kinds, from Nigerians to Nubian goats, La Manchas, Alpines, Saanens, all sorts of different show goats. Also, Boers are show goats. So, and those, depending on how their background is, if their parents are winning, grand champions, all that, the price will change. And then, as for me, and the goats that work best for me are the Kiko goats. And I utilize those because they have so much potential in the breed. They give you meat, milk, cashmere, best pets in the world, in my opinion. And then also we use them as pack goats and brush control because they're so parasite resistant. So you have to figure out what kind of goat is going to fit exactly what you're looking for. Whether you just want them for pets, or you just want them for meat or milk, or if you want multi-purpose goats, So you have to do a lot of research and figure out which goats will fit exactly what you're looking for. Now, as far as pricing goes, it all depends on the goat. Each goat is different. Each one has a specific purpose, and also bloodlines, all that can play a role in pricing. So, pet goats, depending on what you're getting and who you're getting them from, where in the country, also makes a difference. The feed costs that they go to put into the goat, you're looking at $50 to $200 up to $300 for like a pet goat. But it also depends on how they're managed. Now, I've owned Kiko, Boer, Nubians, Pygoras, Toggenburg, mixed breeds, Saanens, all sorts of different goats. And I picked the Kikos because they just fit what I'm looking for. But all through the years, I've spent as little as nothing on a goat, and as much as $1,500 on a goat. And I guess I want to say that I've learned from my mistakes on buying a cheap goat or getting a free goat or rescuing goats. It's not always a bad thing. It really isn't. However, you do run the risk, if you're not going to purchase from somebody that, like, let's say disease test, you run the risk of bringing in a goat that has disease and can infect your entire herd, and then everything has to be put down. Depending on the disease, some of it can be managed, but it's always going to be there. Most diseases that you test for, like Yoni, CAE, CL, you want to put the goat down because it's highly contagious. And some of them, like parvo and dogs, can live in your ground for a very long time. So whenever we purchase a goat, it's always straight to quarantine. It does not get to meet our other goats until they're disease tested, and any signs of illness and anything are all gone. But as long as they're negative on all the disease testing, then we will allow them into the herd. So you also want to do that as well. Anytime you get a new goat, don't ever just throw them right in with your herd, because you do risk infecting your herd. Even goats that I purchase from a farm that does disease test, I still retest, because you never know. The testing could have come up as a false negative, or they lied. I always tell people, if you're going to buy from a breeder and they say they disease test, ask for results. Because I actually personally know a couple of breeders that say they test when they really don't. And you definitely can't trust anybody in these days, unfortunately. So I always ask for test results, and then I also still retest once I get them into quarantine on my farm. So disease testing can run around $23 or more per goat. And you can't just test random goats. You have to test the entire herd, because if one is positive, the other ones could have been recently infected and they're showing up negative when they're actually not. So you have to test your entire herd, and then that is where the expense comes from. It can cost me up to $500 a year to test them, and so it does get expensive. So that's part of where the money comes from as far as your goat purchase. Also the feed, right where we're at here in Arizona, a bale of hay costs $15 for one bale of hay, and I go through one a day. So you can see how quickly that will add up. Also, we don't do it here, but some other places, your show goats or your dairy breeds, you give them grain because you need to keep their body condition up while they're producing high amounts of milk, and that grain gets expensive as well. And they'll go through 1 to 3 cups of grain per feeding twice a day, and a bag of grain can cost $15 or more, depending on the quality of the grain that you're using. So that can get up there as well. Also, you're feeding minerals. The goats have to have minerals. Also, if you're in a copper deficient state, you have to give them copper 1 to 3 times per year. And then plus your housing, your fencing, your upkeep, all that definitely plays a role in the cost of your goat. So if you figure, like for us, we're grass-fed only. We're paying $15 a bale for hay, and we're giving our high copper minerals, and they run about, what are they, like $40 a bag, and that bag will last us maybe a month. So it's not exactly cheap. Plus the copper, all that good stuff. And I calculated it for me. It's running about $150 or $175 per goat per year, and I have 23 goats. That's a lot of money. And so when you look at just the feed cost and the disease testing, that's quite a bit of money. Now you get into pedigrees and breeding potential, the quality of the animal in itself. For us, the Kikos, you want them to be parasite resistant as best you can. None of my goats have been dewormed here other than my Alpines, because my Alpines are not like Kikos, and their parasite resistant is not that great. That's, I'm not going to say typical, but it's fairly common for dairy breeds. They're not parasite resistant. So the dewormer cost, you're getting into medications now. Just like yesterday we had a goat that broke her leg. There's more money. So upkeep on your herd goes a long way. All the medications, vet care, anything like that also plays a role. So then you get into, if you look at it this way, to get that baby goat that you wanted for a pet for $50, let's just go that route, okay? So you buy, let's say I'm a breeder and I buy a doe and a buck, right, for breeding. And I'm, of course, going to probably get them as babies, 3-month-old baby goats, right? And I want quality animals. Now, I just paid $500 a piece for that pair, so it cost me $1,000 for that pair. Now I have to raise them for at least 18 months before I can breed that one pair of goats. So now after that 18 months, I breed the pair of goats, as long as nothing happens to them. And then we have to wait another 5 months before the babies hit the ground, and then another 3 months before they're ready to sell. So you have to think about how long it takes to raise those goats just to get that 1 or 2 baby goats, typically twins for your goats, and you probably want to keep one, right? And then you have your one pet goat. $50 ain't gonna cut it. That's not even gonna feed the one of the goats for 6 months. You know what I mean? So you have to look at it that way. Most people don't understand what it takes to raise goats and why a goat will cost $500,000. $500 to $1,000. And so, I'm hoping that this is helpful for you guys to understand a little bit more about why the goats cost how much that they cost. Like I said, I've learned previously $50, $100 goats, they're not worth it. They're from people that, I don't want to say this. It's not really everybody does it, but a lot of places, some places, I'm not sure how to say this without offending anybody, but, those $50 goats are not necessarily very good goats. They could be disease-ridden, they could be, have issues. There's a reason that they're being sold for so cheap, if that makes sense. So, learning from my experience, after rescuing a few goats, they were disease-ridden, I had to put them down. I rescued them for like $50. Disease tested them, that was another $23. Found out, after feeding them for weeks, found out that they had disease, and then I just had to put them down and bury them because they're disease-ridden, they're skin and bone, and there's nothing there. So I just wasted, all that money for nothing. So, that's just something that I've learned in the past. It's not necessarily good to get a cheap goat. So, I'm kind of hoping that this makes sense for you guys and that you understand what it takes in raising goats, and hopefully it will prevent you from making some of the mistakes that I have. So, anyway, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you guys next time.